Into 1-12. BYU gets handed its first loss. They're at 12. We're not going to run through all 11, but the SEC is well represented.
4 to 12, okay.
Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas. And to me, you can make an argument that the first team out, which is Tennessee, is actually ranked, what do we got there?
11.
11? No, I don't know. But they should be in my opinion. They're not. A lot of reaction at first blush. What note jumps out to me? Boise State hosting a playoff game?
Which is amazing. They're going to be the highest ranked group
is that
of
what
five,
jumps out to you?
Group of 5 team. Yes, it's interesting though because you have to look at the playoff seeding and then actual ranking because they're ranked 12th, which I think is disrespectful. They have the best loss in the country to still the #1 team in Oregon by 3 points.
Does it matter? Does it make the rankings really matter if this is
what
you end up doing?
It does when you look at a Notre Dame team who is just getting by on not having to play and win a conference championship game, and the fact that they have the mystique of being Notre Dame. When you have SMU, a 1-loss team, that's a first team out, and then Tennessee also in that same sort of predicament.
2 losses for Tennessee.
But there's a half dozen teams in the SEC with 2 losses. 3 of them are in the initial bracket with you right here, and Tennessee's on the outside.
Georgia, Ole Miss,
looking into it, and I get it. They recently came upon that loss against Georgia, but there's a couple of questionable things. For the most part, I think the committee of 13 down in Grapevine got it right. I'd like to see. I mean, Boise State has a bye, so I guess you can only give them so much respect. But again, I think they're a sleepy team.
Oh, sure.
That people shouldn't sort of disrespect and count out, especially with the ability to host the playoff game.
The first 2 out are SMU and Tennessee.
Yes.
I feel like Tennessee has as good of a resume as any of the teams that are in from the SEC. The 2-loss teams being Georgia, being Alabama, being Ole Miss that are in there as well. The problem is head-to-head, Georgia beat Tennessee and beat them pretty handily.
Recently.
But head-to-head, Tennessee beat Alabama, and that's what's fascinating is, listen, we can get up in arms, we can bellyache and gnash our teeth about these rankings now. What really matters are the final rankings.
Correct.
And what really I hope to see is an emphasis on head-to-head when we get to the final rankings. And I don't say that as an anti-Georgia take, but if we're talking about, let's say Texas, who's right now representing the SEC, has that first-round bye. Let's say they lose to Texas A&M. And then you've got the scenario where Georgia has 2 losses and they beat Texas, who also has 2 losses. They beat Texas head-to-head. Alabama has 2 losses. So does Tennessee. Tennessee beat them head-to-head. Like, where are you going to slot it? Is it eye test? Like, what does the committee use to delineate?
So that, well, they're going to use the SEC championship game, and that's why a bunch of our college football analysts last week on SportsCenter said right now, I mean, you just named the Texases and the Georgias and the Alabamas who are currently in the college football playoff bracket, but Ole Miss might be the most impressive lately. Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart, they're clicking. 600 yards of total offense the week prior. Then they beat Georgia. Biggest home win for them. To catapult them back into the CFP picture. So right now, I mean, we're mentioning Texas, we're mentioning Bama, we're mentioning Georgia. I like Ole Miss.
All right, well, let's get to the Big Ten. Oregon is the #1 team in the country. You still got to wrap your mind around Oregon being a Big Ten team, but they're in there, and they have the first-round bye representing the conference championship that they are implied to win in the Big Ten. One of these teams is going to have something to say about that. In the Big Ten championship game, are we going to get a rematch between Ohio State and Oregon, or is Indiana going to take care of business against Ohio State? This has massive college football playoff implications. If this is the only loss for Indiana, do they have to keep it close?
They have to keep it close.
Okay, style points here.
But generally speaking, we're supposed to have the answers to the questions that we tee up. This is truly one of the most confounding questions we have, probably in recent college football history.
Well, and in life, right? It's where do babies come from?
Exactly.
And then it's also what do you do with a one-loss Indiana?
Where do they come from? Because you have 3 of them, so you would know.
Love.
Okay.
Love, and there's a stork. We can get it.
Okay,
we'll do it later.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
But Indiana, right, they have the numbers that are like, oh, yeah, this team is going to be playing Oregon in the Big Ten title. And then you take a look at their resume, and I know that's what everybody's beating down on, but it's the one thing that's sticking out. They haven't beat a top team in the Big Ten. They haven't beat a ranked team all season. So tomorrow in Bloomington, biggest game in the program's history, we are going to learn a lot about who Indiana is, or more importantly, who they aren't.
Well, it's in Columbus.
That's fine.
But no, that's totally fine. But I think we're going to learn that Indiana's a good football team.
Okay.
I think we're going to learn they haven't been tested.
Sure.
What you always say, iron sharpens iron.
That is what I say.
Then this is the dullest iron we got. That's because they haven't played anything.
They
haven't played.
It looks like a sword.
Another team with any iron to them.
Sure.
They're going to get a test. I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to keep it close. And it's just going to make the chaos surrounding 12 teams in this playoff all the more interesting. When we had a 14 playoff, it was like, oh, it needs to be expanded. We need to have more teams. It'll take the guesswork out of it. No, it's just more guesswork and more fun for us.